Hi, I'm Greg Berdinger, Ghent Town Historian. Welcome to another trip into Ghent's history. Today we're along the Old Post Road in West Ghent, one of the oldest roads in America. Like a lot of roads, it probably evolved from an Indian footpath. It moved over the years depending upon where bridges were built. But when the Dutch settled the Hudson Valley, this became their main route from Manhattan to Albany. This road would have carried the famous Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, and of course Martin Van Buren, and of course the everyday people, maybe for a half mile, maybe for 100 miles. The name Post Road came from the simple fact that it was designated to carry the mail. In Europe, centuries before, horseback riders were posted along the road and passed the mail from one to the other to carry messages from the king and later from anyone. In the 1790s, this was an official post road established by the United States Congress under the power granted by them in the United States Constitution, quote, to establish post offices and post roads. Behind me was the site of what was quite common along a major thoroughfare, a tavern. Specifically, here was Van Bramer's Tavern. And we know this from an 1851 map and an 1843 article. Ladies' Fair at Ghent, 4th of July. 1843. The ladies attached to the Second Reformed Dutch Church in Ghent will hold a fair on the 4th of July at the new church, now erecting near Van Bramer's Tavern on the Old Post Road between Kinderhook and Claverick, for the sale of fancy articles, the avails of which are to be appropriated to aid in completing said church. The Reverend Dr. Gossman and other speakers are engaged to address the assembly on that occasion. The exercises will commence at 10 o'clock a.m. Suitable refreshments will be provided. Ladies and gentlemen from other places are respectfully invited to attend. One wonders what the ladies of the Second Reformed Church thought of the landmark of Van Bramer's Tavern. It was quite common in pre-Civil War America for there to be tension between churches whose attendance was about 2/3 female and taverns whose attendance was about 100% male, and the refreshments were certainly most unsuitable. Drink was the bane of many a marriage in 19th century America. The anti-alcohol movement was alive and well in Ghent. From the Columbia Washingtonian, January 30th, 1845. Notice, temperance meeting to be held at the Van Bramer Schoolhouse, Ghent, near the new church, Thursday evening, February 6th. It was not uncommon for temperance meeting to be held in schoolhouses around Ghent, and I doubt it was a coincidence that the meeting was close to a tavern here in West Ghent. There are, of course, many missing details of life in and around Van Bramer's Tavern, but it's worth imagining some of the tensions in the neighborhood around temperance and intemperance. Lastly, I'm standing on what may be the most controversial spot in the history of Ghent history. We do know for certain that in the winter of 1775 and 76, Colonel Henry Knox executed one of the greatest exploits of the American Revolution, transporting 60 tons of cannon he had captured at Fort Ticonderoga on Lake Champlain to General George Washington in Boston, leading to the British evacuation of Boston. Fast forward to 1926, when a distinguished panel determined that Knox came down the post road from Kinderhook to Claverick, then east to Boston. One of a couple dozen beautiful granite and bronze markers was placed right here. But by 1976, historians determined that Knox did in fact pass through Claverick, but not the Claverick we know today. He passed through the part of Claverick that would later become Ghent. Knox, in fact, had made his turn east a little further north than previously thought. So in an effort toward accuracy, West Ghent's monument was moved to Old Ghent at the intersection of Snyder Road and Route 66. Suffice it to say, people in West Ghent were not happy. Mrs. Mary A. Seymour, West Ghent's caretaker of the monument, wrote what could only be described as a strongly worded letter to the Chatham Courier in March of 1976, which concluded with the demand, "We of West Ghent want our monument back." Thanks for coming along today on another trip into Ghent history. If there's a place in town you'd like explained or explored, drop me a note at historian@townofghent.org or leave a comment or question in the sections below. Many thanks to my videographer today, Christian Bruno, himself a resident of West Ghent on the Old Post Road, and he's fulfilling his participation in government project at Ichabod Crane High School. Thanks again for coming along, and we'll see you around town.